State your name again for the record. Spell your last name.
My name is Blanca Turrubiate Simpson, Turrubiate-Simpson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is this difficult for you to be here today?
Yes, sir, it is.
Will you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of this jury, Mr. Simpson, about yourself, where you're from, your family if you want to, and just kind of what you've been doing in life leading up to today, generally, please?
Yes, sir. I'm originally from Brownsville, Texas. I joined the military at the age of 17. I was in Norfolk, Virginia for almost 9.5 years. I was stationed on the USS Puget Sound, USS Shenandoah, Naval Air Station Oceana right before I left.
What'd you do there?
Heavy equipment operator.
Okay.
And my husband was also a heavy equipment operator. We were both in the same field. We decided that the military was just not going to be good environment for raising children, so we made a decision. Instead of moving to Texas, we moved to South Carolina, where he was from. And we have 5 children, 34, 31, 23, 21, and a 17-year-old. They're all been raised down here in South Carolina.
Any of them still at home?
Yes, sir, 17-year-old.
Where was your husband from? You said he moved back home. Where was he from?
My husband's originally from Gifford, South Carolina.
Say it again.
Gifford, South
Gifford.
Carolina.
Okay. And what does he do?
He's a police officer for Hampton.
When you came to South Carolina, you'd never been here before, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. What did you do when you got here besides the hardest job in the world, being a mom and raising kids? What else did you do?
When we moved here, we had enough leave built that we didn't have to work for almost 2 months. So I went to, after about a week, I kind of got bored because I'm used to having hands-on doing something. So I went to the local Piggly Wiggly store in town and I asked I didn't know he was the owner at the time. I realized he was the owner after, if I could get a job because I was bored. And
How many kids do you have?
I have 5.
Okay.
But I only had the 2 oldest ones
Okay.
at that time. And so he said the only job he had was a stalker, and I actually had no idea what that meant because I had just graduated high school and went in the military, so I didn't know. But I told him I would take it as long as it would get me out of the house for a little bit. So I took that job, and then within a week, I got a call from another job that I had put in where it was brazing or welding at Scotsman, which is in Allendale County. And I figured, well, it offers benefits, and it would be better transition for the kids, dental, that sort of thing. So I went there. After about 2 weeks, another job called me and had better dental medical benefits for my kids. So that was the first time I went to work for the South Carolina Department of Corrections. I opened up Ridgeland Correctional Institution. I was the first class to graduate from Ridgeland Correctional Institution. I worked my way up from correctional officer to sergeant. I managed the outside details and the road crew on the interstate. Also, a crew that would go out to Hunting Island for maintenance to assist with the park rangers. In 2001, I was offered a job at the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and I accepted the job. So I left Ridgeland Correctional Institution, went to work for FCI Estill, Federal Correctional Institution, Estill, South Carolina, where I stayed until 2007. My job, basically, I started back from the bottom as a correctional officer, and before my year's up, I got promoted to the Special Investigative Support Tech Office, where I was responsible for managing, producing reports, weekly reports, and also profiling the Hispanic gangs, because there was not a lot of staff members that were bilingual. So my job basically became profiling, interviewing, and associating members, the inmate population with gangs.
And how long did you do that?
From 2001 to 2007.
Not that anybody cares, but is that when I first met you?
Yes, sir.
Did you help me arrange a meeting with a prisoner I need to interview?
Yes, sir.
And why did you leave that job?
Just burned, when you're the only, one of the only ones in the office that's bilingual, and you're constantly getting called out for different incidents dealing with a Hispanic population that had grown out quite a bit from the time I got there, and still having to do your daily duties in the office, and nobody's helping you, you tend to burn out pretty quick. So
So if an
I
incident,
made a decision to leave.
so if an incident happened when they needed a translator,
I
Your
was
phone
call-
got called.
I had to stop what I was doing and respond to whatever incident dealing with the Hispanic inmates.
what did you do after that?
I went into real estate for a little bit, which was not so good because that's when the market crashed.
And again, for the jury's edification, what year is this when you quit the prison? And
2007
you're living where?
in Brunson.
I'm sorry.
Brunson,
So how long did you stay in real estate?
maybe about a year and a half.
Your family's grown at this point, I presume?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did there come a point that you met the defendant, Alex Murdaugh?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell them how that happened? Tell the ladies and gentlemen how that transpired?
When I first moved to Gifford with my husband, like I said, I was bored, so I went to work at the grocery store. At the grocery store, during the time that I moved, there was not a lot of Hispanic families living in that area. It has since grown in the years. I met a lady who I befriended. She was Hispanic, and we started talking because she was the only other Hispanic person that I had actually seen in the area. So we started talking back and forth, and it was nice to speak in your native tongue with somebody. Her son had an accident at the school on his way after school, walking to the car, and he had gotten hurt. One of the ladies that worked at the school had recommended that she use an attorney from Walterboro. And a couple of months had gone by, and I noticed that she was under a lot of stress. And as I talked to her, she said, "I just have to get all these documents. I don't understand." She spoke English, but it was very broken English. So she was having a difficult time explaining what she needed for the attorney. So I told her, I said, "I'm gonna find you an attorney. I'll look around." I said, "And we'll go ahead and fire that attorney and hire you a new one." And, because we didn't want the statute of limitations to run out on her case. So at that point, I started looking around, and I happened to walk into the law firm. And it was the old offices where I met Alex.
Just walked in, and that's where you met the defendant, Alex Murdaugh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you were trying to assist this individual who was having trouble communicating with her prior attorney, don't mention whoever that attorney was, but you helped her get a new attorney.
Yes, sir.
Did you help with that case, that particular case with this friend?
Yes, sir. He told me he would take the case.
Who is he? Who's told?
Alex told me he would take the case as long as I translated and helped him with the details. Because he didn't have anybody in the office that was bilingual, and I agreed.
You were a hot commodity, weren't you? I mean, there was a need for translators.
Yes, sir.
So you helped with that case?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you assist in other cases with,
Yes, sir, I
Alex Murdaugh?
did. At times, Alec would call me and ask him if I could assist in translating or when there were accidents and the folks were injured. And if they were not, if they did not speak the English language, he would ask me to translate.
and were you getting paid for this service?
Yes, sir. He would, it wasn't a set fee. It was just depending on the case, you know, whatever I did, whether it was to get him signed up with a law firm, basically, you know, or if I had any type of, in the Hispanic community, when you are in trouble or you're in need of something, and a lot of times those accidents, when they happen in the area, they are not from here. The language barrier is a big thing for them. So my instinct was more to make sure that they were well accommodated and they, whatever they needed. So sometimes he would reimburse me for my out-of-pocket whenever I helped the individuals, you know, who were in the accident.
And that went on for a period of time when you were assisting either Alex Murdaugh or the law firm, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did that change into a caregiver, if you will, or respectfully, I don't mean housekeeper or whatever term you'd like to call it, for Maggie Murdaugh?
Yes, sir. Alex had called me and said Maggie was looking for a person to help her in the home. And at that point, real estate wasn't really doing much for me, and so I couldn't find anybody. I had asked around. And at that point, I told him, I said, well, I'll help her. And he was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I'll help her. I said, it's no big deal to me. It's honest work. So I said that I would help her.
You were clearly qualified.
Yes, sir.
So what did you start doing for
I
either the
would-
Murdaughs or Maggie Murdaugh?
I started helping the other ladies in the house with the cleaning, with running errands, running to the bank for her, whatever she needed me to do.
And when did that start, Ms. Blanca?
In 2007.
And were the two young children, or the two children, Paul and Buster Murdaugh, were they younger at the, obviously they were younger when you?
Yes, sir, they were young.
And would you have interaction with them and/or Alex Murdaugh during this time period?
Yes, sir.
How often were you working for the Murdaughs?
At that point, it was maybe every other day, depending on how often she needed me.
And where was that? Where specifically were you working? Where was their house?
At the house on Holly Street in Hampton.
How long did that go on before you stopped and tell them why you stopped?
I worked there with them on and off, like I said, not on and off, I shouldn't say that, every 2 to 3 days, you know, or it wasn't a daily thing at that point. Then I did go probably about maybe, I can't recall, it was a few months later or a couple weeks later. There was an incident at the house, and somebody had tried to burn the house, so that's when I actually went and started helping her more full-time, because she had to go through a lot of the damages and all that. I helped her document a lot of whatever damages were done from the diesel and stuff that was spilled all throughout the house by the individual.
And maybe I wasn't clear in my question. Did there come a point where you had some health issues?
Yes, sir. At one point, I suffered a stroke, and I had to stop working and go through rehab for a while.
And what year was that? 17 and 18, maybe?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So prior to your stroke, and you had to go to rehab, how long did you work for the Murdaughs?
It was a few years by then.
How long were you out after you had your stroke, Blanca?
Maybe almost 4 years.
Did there come a point where you went back and started working with Alex, with the Murdaugh family?
Yes, sir.
And tell these folks when that was.
Shortly after the boating accident, I reached out to Alex and Maggie, and I told them if they needed anything that they could call on me. And at that point, Maggie said that she would like for me to come back if I was able to. So I told her I would. At that point, I was feeling better, so I told her that I would go back. And once I went back, it was like I actually never left.
I was just informed the stroke was in 2015, not 2017. I
Yes, sir.
apologize.
Yes, sir.
So after your recovery, you started working and actually called them, the Murdaugh family, and said, if y'all need anything.
If y'all need anything, you know, I'm here.
And I don't think anybody will dispute, that was in February of 2019?
Yes, sir.
Time period?
Yes, sir.
So when you went back to work with the family after the boating accident, tell these folks, what were your duties then? What was your job?
I started right back at the same thing. I was helping with the cleaning. I was helping running errands. I would cash checks. I would, and what I say by cashing checks for Maggie, sometimes she didn't have time or she was busy doing other things, so she would send me to the bank to cash checks, to pay the people that she had working around the house. The main.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. The maintenance line, you know, that sort of thing, whatever she was doing around the house.
And where were they living, the Murdaugh family, at this point in 2019?
Both places,
Okay, tell the folks where both places.
Moselle and Hampton.
So you're working at both residences?
Yes, sir, both.
And did there come a time where they moved exclusively for the primary residence to, well, where was their primary residence?
Their primary residence was Holly Street, and once they sold the house, they moved straight into Moselle, full-time.
We hadn't heard much about Maggie, and I'm limited what I can say in a murder case, but did y'all get fairly close?
Yes, sir.
And when you had quit working for her and you had your stroke, did you ever see her during that time period when you weren't working for her?
Yes, sir. Maggie would, I would see her in town, and she would often signal me to pull over, so we just used to stop sometimes and just talk and see how things were going at the local CVS.
Just to catch up?
Just to catch up and see how everybody was doing.
And prior, when you were working and after, would you, and I'm not asking you to say what, but y'all got close and would talk personal things?
Yes, sir.
I'd like for you to go back in your mind now and take this jury back to June 7th, 2021.
Yes, sir.
You were working there for the Murdaughs then?
Yes, sir.
That's a Monday. Do we all know that, June 7th?
Yes, sir.
When had you worked prior to that? At
At-
the Moselle property for them?
Friday.
And at that point, had you seen, what family members did you see at Moselle on Friday, which would have been the June 4th of 2021? Do you remember?
Paul?
And what was your interaction with Paul that day?
Paul walked through the door, his usual self. I was walking out of the laundry room, coming into the kitchen, and Paul came in the front door, and he was holding a laundry basket full of clothes. And as he was approaching me, he saw me, and he said, "What's up, Miss B?" And I just looked at him. I said, "Boy," I said, "if you got all them dirty clothes and you want me to take care of that," I said, "I'm getting ready to leave." He's like, "Oh, come on, Miss B, you can help me out." He said, "I need them for the weekend." He said, I said, "Well, just pull a couple of them out, what you need, and I'll take care of it." And I ended up staying late to make sure that he had his clothing ready for the weekend.
So did you wash the clothes for the entire family? Was that part of your?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did Paul leave that Friday?
Yeah, I saw him leave. I don't know whether he was actually gone for the weekend or if he was still.
Did you ever see him again?
No, sir.
Did you have regular hours in June of 2021 that you worked at Moselle for the Murdaugh family?
They weren't really set hours. Maggie was pretty, she was just easygoing. If I had stuff to do, if I had stuff to take care of, she wasn't really too keen on any specific hours. So, you know, if I had a doctor's appointment or if I had anything, she'd be like, "Okay, no," her main comment to me always was, "No worries,
No worries.
no worries."
Well, June 7th specifically, were you scheduled to work at Moselle?
Yes, sir.
And did you have contact with Miss Maggie Murdaugh sometime prior to getting to Moselle that morning?
Yes, sir.
And I think it's in evidence, but tell these folks what contact you had with her.
She texted me and asked me if I could stop at the grocery store on my way to Moselle because Alex wanted some Capri Suns.
Wanted some what?
Capri Suns.
Okay.
And she said apple, and I believe she said pineapple first, and then they changed. She came back with another text and said, "No, he wants orange," I believe that's what he said. That's what the text said. I'm not.
And did you try to get some orange Capri Suns?
Yes. Sir.
Where'd you go?
I went to the Food Lion.
And were you successful in your search for
No,
orange
sir.
Capri Suns?
No, sir.
I'll show you what's marked States 54, Ms. Blanca. Excuse me, Defendants 54 for the record. Did you have any other text with Miss Maggie before you got to Moselle?
Yes, Maggie told me she had to go to a doctor's appointment, and she said that in the text, Maggie said, "Alec wants me to come home." And she said, and in a phone conversation, she told me, she said, "I left some food in the refrigerator. Is there any way that you can cook? Paul likes the way you cook." So she said, "Because I don't think I'll be back in time." So I said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "I'll do it." So it was nothing. I finished what I was doing, and then I started cooking, making sure the meal was ready for when Paul and they arrived at home, well, that afternoon. And we had another conversation on the phone where she told me, she said, "Alec wants me to come home." And she kind of sounded like she didn't want to come home. Because she really liked being at Edisto. And they had a lot of work that was going on, and she was trying to make sure everything was ready for the 4th of July gathering that she was planning. So she was very detail orientated, so she wanted everything perfect. So she was kind of, she sounded like she was a little disappointed. And then she said, well, Alec asked Paul to come home too, because he's got to fix the mess up out there that that CB had done.
That CB Road?
Yes, sir. And he said Alec had told Paul to come and fix it because they were planning on having a hunt that weekend, so he wanted everything ready and good to go.
So he'd asked Maggie to come, and then he had asked Alex to come.
That's what
Excuse
Maggie,
me, Paul to come.
Paul, that's what Maggie told me over the phone.
And looking at Defendants 54, can you read that? Text?
He said, thank you, I'm waiting at doctor. Alex wants me to come home. I had to leave. Door open at Edisto, but trust Mexicans to shut and lock for me. His dad is back in the hospital. The last doctor claims not cancer, it's pneumonia. And then she's got some emojis. She said, Alec is about to die. Hope he doesn't go down there to sleep. Needs to take care of himself as well.
And when she said, I trust the Mexicans to leave the door open, that didn't bother you?
No, sir.
Okay. When she said, I guess my question is, you said you didn't think she wanted to,
Mr. Meadows, you're standing in front of the jurors.
I apologize. When, you had just testified you didn't think she wanted to come home, was work being done at Edisto?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did she like being at Edisto?
Yes, sir, she did.
And when would she stay at Edisto?
Any chance she had.
Okay. Where was a time of year that she liked being there more than other times?
Yes, sir. Come around spring, summer, she preferred to be in Edisto.
And I guess, was she at Edisto the night, Sunday night, do you know? Where was she Sunday night?
I'm not sure.
False speculation, unless she knows.
She can answer if she knows.
I'm not sure.
Were you on schedule June 7th time-wise? Were you running late? What time were you supposed to be there?
I didn't have a set time to be there.
After you and Maggie talked and texted, did you go to Moselle?
Yes, I did.
And when you got there, was Maggie there?
No, sir. She had just left.
Was Paul there?
No.
Was defendant Alex Murdaugh there?
Yes, he was.
Okay. When you walked in the house, was he up?
No, sir, he was in bed.
He was in bed. Based on the time you spent there and your experience with the defendant Alex Murdaugh, was he a morning person?
No, sir.
No. Well, how long were you there working before you saw Alex Murdaugh? That morning on June 7th of 21?
Probably a couple hours.
And can you tell these folks, did there come a point that morning where he left the house? Alex Murdaugh, did he leave and go to work or
Yes,
wherever?
he did.
Okay. And can you tell them what he was wearing, Alex Murdaugh, best of your memory, when he left Moselle?
He had a pair of khaki pants, greenish, I call it seafoam color, polo shirt, and he put a sports coat, a blue sports coat over it. And he put his shoes on, which were usually right there next to a dresser that they had right there in the living room area. That's where his shoes used to go, right there, so he just used to kind of slide his shoes on his way out the door.
Do you remember what type of shoes he had on June 7th, 2021, when he left?
His regular work shoes, the brown, there was a pair of brown leather shoes.
Was it a long sleeve shirt or a short sleeve shirt he left on?
The polo's a short sleeve shirt.
And staying out of everybody's view, do you remember anything specifically about that shirt?
As he put his coat on, he was putting his shoes on, and he was putting his coat on, and he was getting ready to walk out. He turned around, and I said, Alec, I said, hold on a minute. I said, your collar's sticking up. So he turned around, and I fixed his collar inside his jacket, because one collar was sticking up
So
on
you
his shirt.
actually helped, I'm sorry, but you helped move his shirt?
Yeah, yes, I did.
And you said it was a long or short sleeve, I'm sorry.
That polo is a short sleeve,
And did it have buttons on part of it, or do you know?
just from here to here.
And was it a blue blazer you
It was-
put on top of it?
It was a dark color.
Did he put a tie on? He
Excuse
didn't have a
me?
tie with that on.
No,
I
sir.
just. Where's ties anymore? Now, Miss Maggie had asked you to fix dinner for the family. Did you do that?
I did.
Can you tell them what you make?
She called it steak burger, but it's cube steak and gravy, some white rice, and some green beans.
You're a good cook, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Did you see or talk to Maggie ever again after this text or this phone call?
Before I left Moselle, I texted her and I said, the dinner was on the, I believe I texted to the effect that I left dinner on the stove for them. And, that I can't really remember the text, but I did text her and let her know that the dinner was ready and that I was leaving.
And you said one of her phrases she used is "no worries." Had she said that to you that day?
Yes.
When was that? It doesn't matter.
I can't remember.
You got a family of your own, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you, when you left Moselle, what did you do?
Pick up my son at school.
And your husband's working,
Yes, sir.
law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
And when you got home that night, did anybody call you that night?
No,
When did you hear about the murder at Moselle of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh?
the next morning when I was getting ready to go out there.
The next morning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How did you hear?
Alex called me.
And what did he tell you? He didn't call, he called you the next morning?
He called me early the next morning.
And what did he say to you?
He sounded shaky on the phone. You could tell he was, his voice sounded really shaky. And he said, B, they're gone, they're gone. And my initial thought was, did she go back to Edison? That thought didn't cross my mind that he meant that they were dead at that time.
You just didn't comprehend what
No,
was
sir,
going on?
I did not. So he told me again, he said, no, B, they're dead. And at that point, I don't remember because I believe I dropped the phone, my husband got the phone. I don't remember after that.
You literally dropped the phone.
Yes,
And did your husband get on the phone?
I don't remember. I don't remember. All I remember is when he said that they were dead, I dropped the phone. And I believe I said, I'll be right over. I'll be right over.
Did he, the defendant Alex Murdaugh, tell you which way to go when you got to the house?
He said him and Buster were at Almeda, so I told him I was going to Almeda. You know, I wanted to make sure they were okay, and so I went from my house to Almeda. And then, when I got ready to leave Almeda, he said, well, when you go to the house, go in the front because there's a lot of sled agents by the kennels. You can't go in that way. And he said, just try to straighten up, the way Maggie liked everything, you know, in the house. He said, you knew her the best. He said, you know how she likes stuff. So I did. I went to the house.
So you went to
I went into Moselle from Almeda.
to start with?
Yes, I did, to check on my Buster and Alec.
To comfort him?
Yes, sir.
And at his request, you went to Moselle to start cleaning up and getting the house in order?
Yes, sir. He said there was going to be people probably stopping by and bringing food and stuff. He said, I just want the house to look the way Maggie would like for it to look. So I said, okay. And I went to the house.
Did you have a usual way that you went in to Moselle, entrance-wise?
From the house, I would, if I was coming from my house, I would come in on the, I call it the Miley's side. So I would actually enter the property through the kennels. And if I was coming from Hampton, or if I, you know, in the other direction, then I would use the front entrance. But normally, I use the kennel entrance, coming from my house.
When you got to Moselle, we're now on the morning of June 8th, right, of 2021?
Yes, sir.
Did you see anybody in the property before you got to the main house?
No, sir.
And when you got to the main house, take us right there. Blanca. Right now, as you're walking in the house, what were your observations?
It was hard because I know she wasn't going to be coming back. And I didn't want to move. I didn't want to move her stuff. It was just a weird feeling going through when I unlocked the front door to get in. It felt cold.
You really cared for her, didn't you?
I did.
What'd you do when you got inside?
When I got inside, I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't do anything. I walked through the front door and I went in the kitchen. And I was kind of, when I looked in the kitchen, I kind of just stopped in my tracks and I looked at the stove. And I was kind of, I don't know what the word is. When I looked and I noticed the stove, that there was no pots on the stove, it was kind of unusual because usually when they ate dinner the night before, the pots usually stayed on the stove. Very, very seldom would she put, you know, certain meals in the refrigerator. A lot of times it was just left on the stove until the next day. And the pots were not in the sink and they were not on the stove. And then as I walked through, if you walk through the kitchen, like you're going to, from the kitchen, if you walk through the kitchen, if you go to the left, there's two freezer and a refrigerator, and the laundry room sat right there to the left. There's a back door to the back porch, and then there's the laundry room door. They're both right there. And as I turned to go to the laundry room, I noticed that her pajamas were in the middle of the doorway, right in the middle, laid neatly in the middle of the doorway going into the laundry room. It was her pajama pants, a pair of underwear, and her pajama top.
Was that unusual?
That was very unusual.
Why?
Because she wouldn't lay her clothes out like that, not in the middle of the door like that. It just didn't look right to me.
And you took care of the house?
Yes,
You took care of the clothes?
yes.
And not to get too personal, but sometimes you can't help it. Were the underwear there with the pajamas unusual?
Yes.
Why?
She didn't wear underwear with her pajamas.
No underwear with pajamas. But that struck you.
No underclothes with the pajamas.
But that struck you as unusual, they were there with the pajamas.
Yes, sir, because the underwear appeared to be clean, not dirty. They still had like fold marks.
And the pots, and I may have just missed it, you said, where would the pots end up when you found them?
After I looked at the pajamas on the floor, the way that they were set, I turned around and I said, well, I wonder where the pots are. So I opened the refrigerator door, and the pots were sitting inside the refrigerator with lids on them. And I was like, who did this? I don't know at that point, but that was not normal for the whole pot to be sitting in the fridge.
Did you make any other observations in the house, the bathroom, or anywhere else?
In the master bathroom, was, her clothes were sitting next to the tub. It was a small pile of clothes right there next to the tub. And by the shower, if you walk in the master bedroom, there's a big garden tub, spa type tub. And then right here is the shower, and there's a window. On the floor next to the shower was a slight puddle of water, a towel, and a pair of khaki pants. And then as I went to the left to see if there was anything else that was out, I looked in the closet, and in the closet was a white damp towel on the floor, and there was and I'm pretty sure the t-shirt was white at one time, but they get kind of dingy after a few years. But it appeared that a t-shirt had fallen off of the stack of t-shirts that were on top of the shelf right there in the closet. It was laying on the floor next to the towel.
When you took care of the home, was that, tell us how the clothes were laid out, the shirts, the shorts, were you saying up on a shelf, or the shirts? How were
In the closet, there was a shelf. There was some shelves, smaller shelves right here, and then there was some long ones. Maggie used to keep her clothes on these. And then there was a shorter one, kind of like little box-looking, Alex used to keep his clothes, his belts and stuff in that. And then on top, there was also an area where he kept T-shirts. They were folded and they were kept on the shelf.
When you say T-shirts, I know what a T-shirt is, but I mean, were they T-shirts like I'm wearing right now, or were they T-shirts with pockets?
It was usually, they would be T-shirts, like if they would go, like when you go to a restaurant and they have like the logo of those type of T-shirts. He had a big collection of those.
And would you put them on the shelf?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you iron T-shirts?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you washed all the clothes?
Yes, I did.
Did he have a certain place that he kept shorts versus long pants?
Yes, sir. When you walk in the master bedroom, when you enter the master bedroom, the bed was right here. At the foot of the bed, you had a dresser here and a dresser here. The right dresser on the top drawers were usually his underwear, his socks. The next drawer was his T-shirts. On the bottom drawer were the pajama pants that he would wear or his shorts that he would wear to sleep in. In the left drawer, and one sits on this side of the door going into the bathroom, and the other one's right here. On the left dresser, he kept his white T-shirts that he would wear under when he wore a suit. He would wear, the T-shirts were in one of those drawers. And then the other two drawers were shorts, the dressier shorts, and then the not so dressier shorts. You know, the,
So you testified a shirt looked like it had fallen when you saw it this morning?
yes, sir.
June 8th, 2021, okay. Was it still clean?
Yes, sir.
Did you put it back?
Yes, sir.
My boss, Don Zelenka, just reminded me that the food that you cooked, did you look and see how much was eaten in the pots?
No, sir, I did not.
Now, you said there was a damp towel. Where was that?
In the closet, on the floor.
And I know what damp means, but when you touched it, did it feel?
It was damp.
Okay. What did you do with it?
Took it to the laundry room.
And you said there were some pants there.
Yes, sir, there's a pair of khakis by the shower.
And what'd you do with those?
Took them to the laundry room.
Did you wash them?
Yes, sir.
Can we go to the...
Ladies and gentlemen, let's stand for a moment. Please do not discuss the case. Please do not discuss your testimony. We'll take about 10 minutes.
Be seated.
You may bring the jury. Thank you. You may proceed. Mr. Harpooni and Mr. Waters, if you all would be seated.
Ms. Simpson,
Yes, sir.
I think where we left off, well, let me kind of try to refocus myself. I'm going to show you what's entered as State 7. Just, can you see those pants in State 7?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize those
Can't
pants?
hear your response, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You recognize those pants in State 7?
Yes, sir.
And how do you know those? How do you recognize them?
I took care of the laundry.
Have you cleaned them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where were these pants kept in State 7?
The left dresser and the third drawer, third or fourth drawer.
You know
They
that-
they weren't in the ones where, he had one drawer with shorts that he would usually wear on the weekends, you know, the dressier ones. Those were kept in the drawer underneath that specific drawer.
So you know what drawers these were in?
Yes,
If you know from being there and taking care of the clothes and taking care of the family, were these shorts he liked to wear a lot or not? Did you see him in these shorts much?
no,
And were these shorts clean the last time you saw them?
yes,
Now, this shirt that's also in States 7. Had you seen that shirt before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where was this shirt kept in the closet at Moselle?
The top shelf, above where his clothes hang, the top shelf. There was a shelf up there.
And you've testified it looked like a shirt had fallen from that shelf when you got there on the morning of June 8th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was this shirt kept in that same place as the shirt that had fallen?
Yes, sir.
And the shirt that had fallen, what did you do with it after you picked it up?
I folded it back up and I placed it back on the shelf.
Was it clean?
Now,
Yes, sir.
I understand that you all are apparently having a personal conversation, but you need to speak into the mic.
Yes, sir.
All right, look at me this way, I'm sorry. Had you cleaned this shirt that's in State 7 prior to June 7th of 2021?
I probably did.
And where would it have been placed after you cleaned it? Where would you have put it?
Up in the closet if there was no more room in the drawer.
Now, could we please play States 306, please? Can you see, would you look right there at your monitor? As they're fixing that, is when Mr. Monk. Okay, freeze it right there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, this, who's in the picture?
Alex,
Okay. And can you tell what kind of pants he's got on?
khaki pants.
Okay. Can you tell what kind of shoes he's got on from that, Miss Simpson?
It appears to be a pair of loafers,
Loafers.
house shoes, loafers.
Okay, well, tell me what you mean by house shoes.
Just his shoes that he would usually wear around the house if he was wearing shoes.
So would he usually just wear them inside?
Yes, sir.
But these appear to be those shoes.
It appears to be, yes.
And this shirt that Alex Murdaugh is wearing on June 7th, depicted in States 306, had you seen that shirt prior to June 7th?
It was in the closet,
Okay. And what type of shirt is that?
a Columbia shirt.
Columbia shirt.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how many of those type shirts did he have?
He had a few in the closet.
And what color is that shirt?
Just like a greenish aqua seafoam color.
Why do you keep using the term seafoam? I'm not fussing, I'm just asking.
The term seafoam, when Maggie was looking at different color palettes to paint, that color came up in one of the color palettes. So we would refer to it as a seafoam. But that's the term that was used for that color in one of the color palettes that she had.
After June 7th of 2021, did you ever see that shirt again?
No, sir. There was like a pink one, a white one, a baby blue in the closet. I do not remember that shirt being in there.
And on June 8th of 2021, in the morning hours when you came back over there, was that shirt there?
No, sir.
Were these shoes that you called house slippers, were those there?
No, sir.
Did you ever see those house shoes again?
No, sir.
And where did he usually keep them?
In the closet.
Did he have any other type shoes? canvas or any kind of boat shoes?
He had a lot of shoes in the closet.
Do you remember any shoes that were canvas type shoes?
The boat shoes, like the Sperry,
Sperry shoes?
yes, sir.
And do you remember those?
Yes, sir. They used to sit in the closet.
They used to sit in the closet. After June 7th of 2021, did you ever see those Sperry boat shoes again?
No, sir, I do not recall seeing them in the closet.
Never, ever.
No, sir.
Did you stay on and work for a period of time for Alex Murdaugh at the Moselle?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did your day-to-day functions change after June 7th as far as Moselle itself?
Yes, sir, they did.
Well, tell them how that happened and what the change was.
After Maggie and Paul were killed, Alec did not stay on the property. On the 10th, when I believe his father passed away, after
Mr.
the,
Murdaugh.
yes, I believe after the service that we had for him at the cemetery, Alec called and asked if my husband and I would stay on the property because him and Buster were not going to be able to stay there. So we agreed to take care of the property and maintain it while he said until he decides what he's going to do with it.
And did in fact you and your husband start residing there for a period of time?
We did.
And what, were you paid for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, do you mind telling them how much?
He would give me $1,500 a week to make sure that anything needed for the farm was taken care of. And my husband and I would maintain cutting the grass on that property, which is a lot of grass out there. And it would take in excess of 2 days to cut.
Would you cut it?
Yes, sir, I would help my husband.
Were you also taking care of the dogs?
Yes, sir.
Tell these folks what were the dogs' names?
Grady and Bubba.
Grady and Bubba.
Yes, sir.
You fed them?
Yes, sir.
Took care of them?
Yes, sir.
Where is Bubba? What's today? Whatever today is, where's Bubba today?
He's with me.
So you have Bubba in your home.
Yes, sir, I do.
Did Bubba have his own pen?
Yes, he did.
And I don't know if you've seen, but at some point, and I'll keep going to the video of, well, could we play that now, please, so we can get it to the video, the kennel video, please? Was it? And before we get there, when, and I'm sorry, I'm going back to this real quick. Is that the shirt he left for the office in that day?
No, sir.
Okay. Go ahead. Had you ever seen Bubba with an animal in his mouth?
Yes, sir.
All right, tell them about that, please, ladies and gentlemen.
When Bubba was running around, if I or anybody, if the chickens were running out of the coop, he would chase the chickens and he would just go after the chickens or the guineas, whatever was out there.
And would you ever catch him?
Yes, he would.
All right. And how would the chicken get out of Bubba's mouth? And
You have to make several attempts to get the chicken out of his mouth, and at points he would growl at you if you tried to take his toy. Basically, that's what he.
in your experience in being there, was it easier for a family member or somebody Bubba knew to get the chicken out?
If he's stubborn. Yes, sir.
Okay. But would it take a period of time to get the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
Yes, it would.
Okay. In August of 2021, Ms. Blanca,
Yes, sir.
did you have a conversation with Alex Murdaugh about a shirt?
Yes, I did.
And let's go back. Where did this take place?
At the little house.
All right. What do you mean, the little house?
After Paul and Maggie were killed, Alec was not staying at Moselle. My husband and I were, and he would often stay in different places. But all his clothes and toiletries and everything were placed in the house that sits between Mr. Johnny Parker and his brother Randy. There's a small 2-bedroom house right there, and that's where all his belongings at the time went.
And where is that located?
In Hampton.
Okay, in Hampton. And who furnished this little house with clothes and toiletries and made sure stuff was there?
I did.
And who was Alex Murdaugh staying there with when he stayed there, if anybody?
He never stayed there. He would just go and get his clothing and eat whatever, if he would have a snack or something. He wasn't really eating.
Well, during the month of August, do you remember him having a conversation with you about a shirt?
Yes, sir.
Did you find that to be unusual?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell them what the conversation was and why you found it unusual. Please.
He walked in to the little house, and I was getting ready to leave. And he said, B, I need to talk to you. And he said, come here, sit down. So I went in the living room. I sat down, and he was pacing back and forth in the living room. And he said, I got a bad feeling. He said, I got a bad feeling. He said, something's not right. And then he said, well, there's a video. There was a video that was out. I hadn't seen a video. And he said, you remember the shirt I was wearing, that Vinnie Vines shirt? That's what he said to me. And in my mind, I was saying, I don't remember a Vinnie Vines shirt. It was the polo shirt. But I didn't mention, he said, well, you know what, I was wearing that shirt. He said, in the, that day. And still, I was just, I didn't say anything, but I was kind of thrown back because I don't remember that. I don't remember him wearing that shirt that day when he left. I know what shirt he was wearing because I fixed the collar, and the collar's a different material.
And I don't know what a Vinnie Vine shirt is. But when he left that day, was he wearing a Vinnie Vine shirt? Or was he wearing the collar you've described?
It was a polo shirt.
Polo shirt. Just using your common sense, did it appear to you he was trying to tell you to say, I was wearing this shirt?
Speculation.
Objection is sustained as to the former question.
How did you take that conversation?
I felt confused at first, and then I know what he was wearing the day he left the house, and I was basically confused. I didn't really know whether he was trying to get me to say that shirt, if I was to be asked that if that was the shirt he was wearing the day.
Ms. Blanca, 455, 457 for ID only. Do you recognize these, and do they relate to your testimony without saying what they are?
Yes,
Okay. On September 4th of 2021, did you have a conversation with defendant Alex Murdaugh?
I did.
Okay. And what did he ask you to do?
He asked me to send him a photo of the insurance cards.
And do you know what day of the week that was? And I'll go back here so you can talk, I'm sorry.
I don't remember the day. All I know was it's on my phone.
He asked you to send him a copy of his medical card?
Oh, it was on a Saturday morning, because the next day was my daughter's birthday. Early that morning when he called me, he asked me, when I sent him the picture of the plastic insurance card, he said, no, I need the cardboard one. Well, the cardboard one was in Maggie's purse. It wasn't in the area where I usually kept the cards in the cabinet. So I told him, I said, it's in Maggie's purse. He said, well, go ahead and get the cards and send me a picture of them. And I asked him if he was okay, and he said, well, I'm just getting some routine exams done, he said, and I need the number so I could go ahead and schedule these appointments. And it was a Saturday, because I was thinking, where's he gonna go to get appointments done on a Saturday? But I didn't say anything. I went and I took pictures, and I sent him all the copies of the cards that I found.
Your Honor, we'd offer say 455, 457.
First of all, he consulted with me about this as he walked up to me a moment ago. I don't quite understand the relevance, why him asking for, you want to tell me?
Talking to him, I'm not.
I'm sorry, if he would just consult with me for a moment and tell me what the relevance is, but he hadn't told me.
With your permission?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Your Honor, we sort of just talked, surprised.
With that, that's 455, 457 without objection.
Reserving our previously made objections, I apologize.
What previous objection? What previous objection? You said
The
reserving
previous
your previous
I
objection.
apologize, I'm just so used to saying that. I apologize. I had no previous made objection to this document concerning this issue. I apologize.
Made it without objection. There you go.
455, I'll stand right here, okay? Were you texting with Alex Murdaugh about sending these cards?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And that's the text, and is that his medical card you sent him a picture of?
One of the medical cards I sent him a picture of, yes.
Please listen to me carefully and don't go any farther than my answer I ask, okay?
Yes, sir.
After this date, September 4th of 2021, did you and your husband quit living at Moselle?
We did.
A couple other questions, and I know everybody will be glad I'm sitting down. In addition to cleaning the house, did you ever look at Maggie's Mercedes to try to clean it afterwards?
I did.
What, if anything, did you find?
As I was cleaning the vehicle, removing her,
I would object unless she gives a date, or at least a range of dates.
Do you remember when that was?
that was about a week after.
Okay. After the murders? When did you, do you remember when you cleaned her car?
I cleaned the car when they asked me to pick it up from the impound sheriff's department.
And who asked you to pick it up?
Randy and his wife had dropped off Paul's truck, and they were getting ready to leave to go out of town. So he asked if my husband and I could go pick up the Mercedes from the impound and bring it back to the house.
And did you clean it after that?
I did.
And what did you find, if anything?
But she still had paint for the Edisto house, that she was trying to touch up some areas at the house in Edisto. She had some pillows that she was gonna return. And as I moved the seat to clean, to vacuum underneath the driver's side seat, I found her ring.
Or what?
Her ring. Her wedding band.
Now, did Maggie, based on your time with her and experience, like being at Moselle by herself?
No.
And leading up to the murders, was she anxious about anything?
She had a conversation with me. She had a conversation with me a few months prior. I walked in the house and Maggie said, "Hey, Blanca," she said, "I got to talk to you. I got something to tell you." And so she said, "Let me make some coffee." And she went and made a pot of coffee. She made me a cup, she made herself a cup, and we went. She said, "Let's go talk." And we went into the hunting room, and she closed the door, because Alec was sleeping in the bedroom, which is on the other side of the house, but she closed the door. When Maggie closed the door,
Hearsay.
Response?
Judge, I think, was she anxious about money issues?
Your Honor. I object to,
Well, I know you objected, and
but he is
I understand your objection. Well, I don't care what you're doing. There's an objection to the previous question. The objection is sustained. While entertaining the objection, you cannot pose another question. The objection is sustained.
I apologize.
Yes, sir. Make your seat.
Your Honor, I hesitate, but this is a matter that needs to be put on the record.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have you go to the jury room. Please not discuss the case. Yes, sir. If everyone will be seated. Yes.
I objected to a conversation. We're aware of that conversation, but I objected knowing where he was going, which was, and in that same interview, by the way, that she gave about a statement where Maggie said that she was concerned about money, she also indicated Maggie was never concerned about money. Either way, it's hearsay. He said, before Your Honor ruled, was she concerned about money, or wasn't she concerned about money? He testified, which is to hearsay. I would move for mistrial. I think that's unduly prejudicial based on the last 3 weeks we've heard of financial misconduct on the part of the defendant. I would move for mistrial. I would move that it's not a mistrial, because I don't think, even if you give this jury an instruction, you can't unring the bell. You can't correct that. And now I've had to draw attention to it, even more so by objecting to it. He knew that was wrong. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Meadows.
Your Honor, and for the record, I apologize for that question. I don't have to say it. I'm
Well,
sorry.
we're not here about apologies. Go ahead.
And I can't help it.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry.
Judge, under 803, and what I should have brought to the court's attention first, 803.3, we think this would be admissible hearsay exception, then existing mental, emotional, or physical condition. The statement of the declarant's then existing state of mind, emotion, sensation, or physical condition. We think it fits under that rule, how she was, and that's all I was going to elicit. That's it. I won't go, and hearsay was coming out a little bit there. A lot of hearsay's come out in this trial. They wasn't objected, it just was rolling. I wasn't trying to plan that part ahead. But I do think respectfully it comes in there at 80, we'd like you to consider under 8033, Judge. And that's what I should have said before I asked the question. Again, for the record, say I'm sorry.
8033, the following are not excluded by the hearsay rule, even though the declarant is available as a witness. A statement of the declarant's then existing state of mind, emotion, sensation, or physical condition, such as intent, plan, motive, design, mental feelings, pain, and bodily health, but not including a statement of memory or belief to prove the fact remembered or believed, unless it relates to the execution, revocation, identification, or terms of declarant's will. All right, Mr. Harpootlian?
Obviously, Your Honor, I don't think that's covered by 803.
Why not?
Well, because it's the declarant's, and maybe we need to ask her exactly what she said before you rule on that. The only testimony we've heard on that point is his.
We heard a question, then an objection, and then another question while the court was listening to your objection.
Yes, sir.
So we'll have a proffer of this testimony and see where it's going.
Was Maggie Murdaugh anxious of anything in the days leading up to the murder that she expressed to you?
Yes, sir.
Please tell the judge what it was.
She was worried because a lawsuit had been presented stating that they wanted $30 million. Maggie was crying. Maggie said, we don't have that kind of money, Blanca. And that's what she used to call me. She said, we don't have that. She said, if I could give them everything that I got and make this go away, she said, I would do it in a heartbeat. She said, I'll start over. We'll start over. She said, I just want it gone.
Just while we're listening to a proffer, go ahead.
Would that be instead of that long, would that be like money issues that she was worried about?
The money issues dealing with the lawsuit.
And Your Honor, that's all I was going to offer, or I asked for the money issues. I wasn't looking to even go in detail on what she said there, that long colloquy.
Yes, sir.
I don't quite understand how this fits into, first, what you allowed in under 403, 404, the and res gestae. Right. It is her perception that the lawsuit, for $30 million, is putting financial stress on her. There's not any, she's not relating that Alex has any stress on him. He's the one on trial. Her perception that the $30 million was concerning her. I mean, she's not accused, that is, Maggie Murdaugh is not the defendant here. There's no connecting it to the defendant. I don't understand not only is it hearsay, it's not relevant to the issues being litigated here. Her state of mind on financial issues, I don't know how that relates.
Anything further?
No, sir.
We've had testimony elicited by the defense throughout the trial from witnesses portraying the family as a loving and happy marriage. Question posed to Mr. Gibson, I believe it was, and to the other friend of Paul's and Buster's, as to whether the family was anxious or seemed to have any concerns or issues going on at the time. And I find that this testimony properly responds to that testimony, and the objection is overruled. Anything else? All right, let's take a 1-minute stretch before the jury comes back. Denying the objection, the motion for mistrial is also, the motion is denied. You bring the jury back. All right, thank you. The last objection is overruled, and you may proceed.
Ms. Simpson, in the days leading up to the murders of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, based on your time with her, was Maggie Murdaugh anxious about anything?
She was concerned about the amount of money that they were requesting on that lawsuit. 30 million is what she told me.
We're going to show you what's marked 297.
You pose a question. There's an objection. The court overruled the objection. And do you want the witness to answer the question that you posed?
Yes, sir. So you
posed a separate question.
Yes, sir, and I thought she had answered. You said she was worried about 30 million. Can you explain that more?
That wasn't your question.
What was she
That there was an objection to. Do you withdraw the question that you posed prior to the court's ruling on the objection?
No, sir.
Or
I
you
don't.
forgot the question?
To the world, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
All right, proceed.
What was she anxious about?
She said she knew the amount of money that they were asking, but she felt that Alec was not being truthful to her with regard to what exactly was going on with that lawsuit. She said, he doesn't tell me everything.
I'll show you what's marked states 297. Excuse me, entered as 297.
Get up. Get back. Quit, Cash. Quit. It's okay. Come here. Come here, Cash. Cash. Hey, he got burns now. Hey, Bubba. It's a guinea. There's a chicken. Come here, Cash. Cash. Quit.
Ms. Blanca, had you seen that before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think maybe in prior statements or something that, had you said, do you recognize voices on there?
Yes, sir.
Who do you recognize?
It's Paul, Maggie, Alec.
And have previously, have you said, in a memo or a memorandum in interviews that you thought you may have heard another voice?
Yes, sir, I did, at a distance.
But having listened to it again, have you listened to it this week? I mean, it's not on TV, have you seen it?
I have, there's only 3 voices, Alec, Maggie, and Paul.
So after hearing it several times, is that your conclusion?
Yes, sir.
Just a few more questions.
Yes, sir.
Would Miss Maggie Murdaugh, did she go down to the kennels at night by herself?
No, sir.
Okay. And you say that emphatically. What, do you know that?
She was scared.
Okay.
It got dark out there.
So would she go down there by herself?
No.
Did she like to go down there when it wasn't dark?
She did.
And did she like playing with the dogs?
She always took the dogs with her.
Which dogs were hers?
Grady and Bubba were always with her.
Okay. So when she was at Edisto, where would Grady and Bubba be?
She would, sometimes she would take both of them, but the majority of the time, in the last few months, she was alternating. She would take one or if not the other.
Can you tell us about the defendants? Did you ever see him with his cell phone? Alex Murdaugh, did you ever see him use his cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury his habits with the cell phone? Would he have it a lot? Did he use it a lot?
Yes, sir, he did.
Okay.
He was always on his phone.
Say that again?
He was always on his phone.
And Paul, were you familiar with his habits as regarding cell phones?
Not, the times that he was there at the house, he was always on his phone. If he'd go in the shower or whatever, he'd play his country music on the phone. But that's the extent that I know from what I observed being there in the house.
And when you were on June 8th, and you've talked about it, and I'm not trying to rehash that, but on June 8th of 2021, when you went to clean up the house, is that pretty much what you saw in the bathroom, the pants and the damp towel?
Yes, sir, there was a rug right as you step out of the shower, and there was like a slight puddle of water, a towel, a white towel, and then a pair of khaki pants.
But you didn't see any bloody clothes or anything like that?
No, sir.
Beg court's indulgence, just a few seconds, Judge. If I did this, I'm sorry, Judge. Is the individual in states? Is that individual in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And would you please, is it Alex Murdaugh sitting between Mr. Harper
Sitting
and
right
Mr.
there. Yes, sir.
And the record is reflecting. Thank you, Judge. Have you ever seen that shirt again?
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
Have you ever seen these shoes again that he's wearing here?
No, sir.
And the Sperry cloth, you said the Sperry shoes, have you ever seen those again?
No, sir.
That's all, thank you.
On the nomination.